Stop leaving your money in a shoebox or under the mattress. And stop being so scared of putting your money in a bank. Banks don't just hold your money, they can actually help you make more and potentially even make you a millionaire. Let me show you how. First, let's talk about interest and how it works. All interest is going to come in form of a percentage, but there are two types of interest that you need to know about: annual percentage rate and annual percentage yield, which you might also hear as APR or APY. APR usually refers to loans. This is the percentage that car dealerships or banks are going to give you on your loan. This is how much interest or extra money you have to pay them on top of your original loan. I'm not going to focus on this type of loan today, as the focus of today's video is on APY, or in other words, the money that the financial institutions will pay you for parking your money there. Here's how you can find out how much the bank will pay you. Take whatever amount of money you want to save. Let's take a nice even number. Let's say $1,000. Now, times that by the percentage rate. This you should have learned how to do in school, but in case you forgot, you can treat percentages like decimals. 1.00 equals 100%, 0.50 equals 50%. So let's take a lower, more reasonable rate like 5%. You take your $1,000 and you times it by 0.05, which brings you to $50. So once you have your number, in this case 50, you want to divide that by 12 for the number of months in the year. And for $1,000 at 5%, you're going to get a whopping $4.17. That's not a lot, right? Well, hold on. This is actually what you're going to be paid for in the first month that you deposit this $1,000. Next month, if you don't touch this money, the bank will pay you interest on the original $1,000 and the additional $4.17, which again won't be that much. It's going to be $4.18, but then it keeps adding up. Now, month 3, you're going to be paid on the original $1,000 plus the $8.35 that you've made from interest already. And you can continue this pattern as long as you want to keep money in these accounts. This is what is known in the financial world as compound interest. It doesn't seem like much, but over time, it can grow significantly. Okay, so that's how compound interest works. Let me show you why it's important to save and be consistent with it. Let's say you're 20 years old. You've saved $1,000 and you want to put it in an account and forget about it. You find an account that offers 5% APY and you commit yourself to not touch this account for 30 years. When you're 50, this account would have grown to $4,300. You only put in $1,000 of your own money. Okay, 30 years is a long time and you only made a few $1,000s. Well, let's start over. 20 years old, $1,000, 5% APY. But we're going to make a slight change for this example. You also commit to depositing an extra $50 a month for the next 30 years. That brings the total amount of money that you would have put into an account to $19,000. That's the original $1,000 that you deposited plus $50 a month. But the total amount of money that you would have in this account would come out to $45,000. That's an additional $26,000 that you would receive just for being patient. Now, I know that 30 years sounds like a super long time, and it is, but the hard truth is that those 30 years are going to pass whether you save or not. Time doesn't wait for us. So you can either save and have something like $46,000 waiting for you on the other side, or spend all your money and not have anything in 30 years. Now, I'm using a generic compound interest calculator here, and you can go on the site just to mess around with the numbers too. You can save $100, $200 a month for the next 30 years, and it will make a drastic difference. You can also change how long you want to save for and change the interest rate as well. Let's run by one more example. Let's say you're depositing money into a 10% APY. I'll tell you where I'm getting that number in a minute. And same thing, you're 20 years old, you start out with $1,000 and you're depositing $50 a month. Only this time you're doing it until you retire, around age 65. You would have deposited $28,000 of your own money over the course of 45 years, $50 at a time. But in the process, your account is now worth over $500,000. Now, if you double your deposit from $50 to $100 a month, you'll be a millionaire. What's $100 a month for most people? One fancy dinner? A few takeout dinners a month? That's what you would have to sacrifice to become a millionaire. And this is just an example. Play around with a calculator so you can know how much you need to save to be a millionaire when you want to be. Okay, so now you know how compound interest works and the importance of being consistent with saving your money. The big question now is, where do I go to do all of this? Where can I get started? So let me break this down for you into 3 different categories, or 3 different baskets, if you will. Your baskets should consist of savings accounts for the now, money markets or high yield savings accounts for soon, and retirement accounts for your future. Okay, but why are people so scared of putting their money in the bank? Why are people not trusting banks? The short answer, people think banks are part of some big conspiracy theory, or they're part of the system that's involved in keeping people down financially, or they think that banks are in it to steal people's information. Now, granted, there are some banks that have messed up and they've made it on the news, they do some shady things. But in general, 95% of banks don't really care about that. The truth is that they care about making money. But here's another fear that people have. What if the bank closes? What happens to my money then? Well, this is important. You don't want to just go to any bank without doing your research when you're trying to build your wealth. You want to find a bank that's FDIC insured and investment institutions that are SIPC insured. This means that your money is safe. Up to $250,000 per person on your accounts for banks, and up to $500,000 for investment institutions. Now, if you don't see FDIC or SIPC anywhere in the bank or on the website, don't open your account there. If that bank does end up closing, there is no guarantee that you're going to get your money back. So make sure you look for FDIC plaques or ask the tellers or the bankers if they are FDIC insured. Banks will usually have these logos on their websites if the bank is FDIC insured, or if an investment institution is SIPC insured. If you see those logos, you're A-okay to open those accounts. First, let's talk about your now baskets. Your savings accounts are for today and maybe tomorrow. These kinds of accounts are for emergencies. This is in case you need to replace your tires on your car, or your employer messed up payroll so you're not going to get paid until next week, but you still have to eat. You still have to put gas in your car. This basket is not for going out to eat. It's not for buying Pokemon cards. It's not for buying that really cute dress that you saw the other day. This type of savings account is for emergencies. Now, where can you open said accounts? Pretty much any bank will do. Make sure you watch my videos of how to open a bank account if you're unfamiliar with the process. But these accounts are very easy to open and usually don't require a lot, but they don't have very good interest rates. Actually, they're usually garbage, normally giving you about a 0.01%. That's nothing. If you had $1 million and you put it into this account, you'd make about $100 in 1 year. That's not very good. Next, we're talking about a money market or high yield savings accounts. These are for your soon basket, and this can be multi-purpose. It's for saving and for growing your money a little bit. You want to buy something expensive? Save up for it and put your money into this account. Don't buy it until you have the physical money for it. Don't get into debt for something dumb. Hence the word soon and not now. You want those Pokemon cards? You want that dress? Cool, you can have it, but make sure you have the money in this account first. The longer your money sits in this type of account, the more the bank is going to pay you. These accounts are a little harder to find and will usually require more money, but the payouts are much better than the regular savings accounts. These can range anywhere from 1% to as high as 5.5% from what I've seen. And online banks can offer even higher percentage rates because they don't have hundreds of branches and thousands of employees that they have to pay. So they can afford to pay you a little bit more towards your savings accounts. Now, I'm not going to tell you exactly where to go to open up these accounts, but here are some banks that you could check out. The bank I personally use is an online bank, and I'll leave it in the description for you to, if you want to check it out. Now, a high yield savings account is just that. It's a savings account. Usually there are a few requirements, and usually there is no direct access to these funds. So you'll have to transfer money from this account to a checking account in order to gain access to that, especially if it's an online bank. Money markets, on the other hand, will have higher requirements, such as requiring a higher balance or more money in the account. But they often come with other perks, like check writing capabilities or even a debit card, so you can have faster access to that money. Finally, your retirement accounts. Now, these might seem a little intimidating, but I will make a video entirely on retirement accounts later down the road. For now, just know that this money is not to be taken out. This money is to be left alone so that it can grow and make you a millionaire by the time you retire. Now, there are two different types of retirement accounts that you need to know about, and they're 401ks and Roth IRAs. A 401k account holds money that you haven't been taxed on yet. So when you retire and take that money out, then you will be taxed. A Roth IRA account holds money that you've already been taxed on. So when you take it out, you won't get taxed again. And although the math is similar on these retirement accounts, the Roth IRA is a fan favorite. That $1 million we talked about earlier, if you were to invest your money into a Roth IRA, you get that $1 million tax-free when you retire. But how do you open these accounts? Where do you even go? Well, a 401k is usually set up with your employer. So if your employer offers a 401k, they can do most of the heavy lifting to set you up with that. If you're not sure if they offer a 401k, you can contact your HR department about it. And the crazy thing about the 401ks is that most employers can actually match what you contribute, usually at a max about 3, maybe 4%. So in theory, if you're putting in $100 of your own money, your employer will match that and put $100 on top of that. So you would be depositing $200 every time you contribute or every time you get paid. That's free money. Now, a Roth IRA is fairly easy to open as well. Some banks and credit unions actually offer Roth IRA accounts. So you can actually just go to your local bank and ask if they offer Roth IRA accounts. If you don't want to go to a local bank and want to do things online, there are some good options out there. There's investment institutions like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, Vanguard, TD Ameritrade, and so on. There's so many companies. I'll leave a list of different investment institutions in the description so you can kind of check it out and shop around. It is very similar to opening up a checking and a savings account. It's fairly simple. But these accounts, as I mentioned before, are for the future, your future basket. But the way these accounts work is you can take the money that you've put into these accounts and invest them in, say, a stock labeled as an S&P 500. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ooh, investments is scary. It's essentially gambling. I'll be honest, it is a little scary if you don't have the right guidance. But this is where people become millionaires. Let me show you how and why this works. The S&P 500 is a collection of the 500 biggest companies in the world jam-packed into one stock. And there are people who take care of this stock so that it can make money, so that it can make them money. And on average, these stocks will make you a return of, or an APY of 10%. Now it's average because sometimes it's more than 10% and sometimes it's less. Here, for example, I have some money invested into an S&P 500 stock, and over the last 3 years has returned me 35%. That's better than average. If you start young and invest $100 a month into this, you will have $1 million when you retire. Now, it's always possible that you might lose money, but based on the last 100 years of history, betting on the 500 biggest companies is a pretty good bet. All right, so recap of what we've covered today, because I talked about a lot of stuff. So we went over how interest works and what APY means. We went over FDIC insurance. We're making sure that your banks are FDIC insured and your investment institutions are SIPC insured. And we went over the different types of accounts that you need to open. So your first goal should be to open a simple savings account for your now basket. Don't worry about the interest rate on this. because remember that this account is for emergencies only. Try to build that account up to at least $1,000. Once you can do that, move on to your soon basket. And if your job offers a 401k for your future basket, jump on that opportunity. That can potentially make you a millionaire by being patient and consistent. Now, like I said, I know I covered a ton of material today, and I hope that I was able to explain things in a simple manner. And I'm going to make a lot more videos about this kind of stuff later on. I know it's kind of boring, but it's super important to know, because we live in a society and in a culture where everything is about spending, everything is about getting into debt, and there are so many people that are struggling to get through their life, through their day-by-day journeys, because they just aren't able to save. And I hope this clears up some misconceptions about banks and about investments, and I hope that you learned something today. But that's going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know if you have any questions about saving your money, how to save your money, where to go. I'd be happy to teach anybody, even a one-on-one, at least for now while the channel's new still, on what to do and where to go. But thank you again, and I'll see you for the next video.